Alright, this is a quick redo of my assignment 3 for graphics class. For question 1, I separated the two buffers, the camera information and the color information. So here's my two structs. And I set the constant buffers right here, so register 0, register 1. And here's the shader that I edited. So Simple Color 3D now has a cam data constant buffer and a world buffer. And again, I set those constant buffers to the pipeline, and then I draw the scene. So here you go. And again, the camera data is just set once, and then the world data is updated, and then I render that object. For question 2, I created a pyramid. So here's the pyramid from all angles, same size as the unit cube. So if I go into model tools, basically I just set the right vertices and indices, nothing crazy. For question 3, this was 3 separate objects with same shader but different colors. So what I did for this one, and tying into the further work question of how to use the same pointer and not keep creating new objects, I just have model pointers to a box and a pyramid, and whenever I have to swap between them, I assign pModel1 to either one, and then I call render on that object. So right here I create a model box and a model pyramid, and then whenever I draw them, so I have 3 separate matrices for the positions. So if I go here to draw scene, this is object 1's data, I update it accordingly, and then I set pModel1 to the model box, and then I render it, adjust the position, set it to a pyramid, render it, adjust the position, set it to a box, and render it. So if I run this here, I get these 3 separate objects. And then for question 4, this is 4 different objects, 2 separate shaders. So again, 4 world matrices, send them through the pipeline. And what I had to do for this was compile 2 shaders with separate handles. So you can see here I had to create a secondary vertex shader, pixel shader, and vertex layout, because I needed to pass in that information from the second compilation of the second shader. And then here's the standard information that I need. So the compilation for the first shader is right here, color selected, do all the same business. Here's my second shader, Simple Color 3D, using the new vertex shader here, the new layout, and the new pixel shader. And then after all that compilation and sending it through the pipeline, I first set the context to the rainbow shader, which is the first one. And then, of course, I have to set the buffers. So 0 and 1 are the registers used by the rainbow, and 2 and 3 are the ones used by color selected. So I send those resources to the constant buffers. And then when I draw the scene, before drawing the first 2 objects, I set the shader to the rainbow, adjust their positions, and etc., etc. And then I call render on them, so those are rendered. And then after those are drawn, I swap out the vertex shader to the color selected, so vertex shader 2, pixel shader 2, adjust the position accordingly, render, adjust the position accordingly, render. So within the same draw, I swap out the shaders in the pipeline, and I can get the 2 separate shaders on 4 different objects. And I wasn't able to get question 5, the sphere, done, but I want to work on it for the sake of figuring out how to do it. So I already answered further work question 1, which is using the same pointer. For question 2, I created a sort of mock UML diagram for the shader class. So there's a shader type of whatever type it's going to be. This was supposed to be a base class, which other shaders derive from. So the flat texture shader derives from a shader base class, which has textures, access to the current camera, model binding, and the shader base class handles things like loading from a file. It has all the various pipeline handles, so access to the context, the vertex shader, and pixel shader handles, along with, of course, basic constructor, etc. So I figured all the things that the shader should all have in common, like all the handles and pointers and stuff, just go in the base class along with compilation, and then derived from that are very specific shaders that require textures or different buffers and structs, and yep, that's pretty much how I set that up. That's all I have, so thank you.